Every Sunday, he left with the same words, "I'll be back in 15 minutes, just grabbing bread." I had gotten so used to it that I barely noticed when he walked out. The soft click of the door, the shuffle of his feet fading down the street, even the faint scent of his cologne lingering for a moment, it was all part of the rhythm of my week, and he always came back, just like he said. But today, it was different. An hour passed, then two. My stomach felt tight, twisting in a way it never had before. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass of the window, staring down the empty street. Usually, Sunday mornings were quiet but alive. The distant bark of a dog, the hum of a lawnmower, the occasional car passing by. Today, though, everything felt too still, almost like the world was holding its breath. Could a simple trip for bread really take this long? My mind jumped from one thought to another, each one worse than the last. Maybe he had an accident. Perhaps he was lost. Maybe he wasn't coming back at all. I tried to push the thoughts away, telling myself to stay calm, but fear kept creeping in, cold and heavy. I paced the room, glancing at the clock over and over. Each tick of the second hand sounded louder than the last. My imagination ran wild, showing me every possible danger. Him walking down the street with someone following him trapped somewhere trying to call for help, me finding out too late. Every possibility felt real, and every possibility terrified me. I knew I had to find out. Sitting there, frozen, wouldn't help anyone. But stepping outside, facing the unknown, it scared me more than anything. One wrong move, one wrong step, and everything could be lost. Finally, I grabbed my coat, my finger shaking. Each creak of the floorboards under my feet sounded painfully loud in the quiet house. I took a deep breath and opened the door. The air was cold, sharper than usual, and the street looked empty, almost too empty. I walked slowly, eyes scanning every shadow, every corner. The bakery was just a block away, glowing warmly through its windows, but it felt far, far away. Then, a movement at the edge of my vision made me stop. A shadow slipped past the lampposts. My heart raced. Was it him or something else? My mind spun with worry, but I kept moving, step by careful step. My determination stronger than my fear. I had to know the truth. Every step down that street felt heavier than the last, but I couldn't turn back. Whatever waited for me at the end, I knew that once I found out, life would never be the same. But I had to face it. I couldn't let fear control me. I had to know what really happened. It wasn't the first time he had turned a simple errand into a long adventure. Every Sunday, he'd leave with that cheerful smile, promising to be back in minutes, only to return late, distracted, or strangely quiet. But today, something felt different. A cold unease slithered up my spine, whispering that the truth was closer than ever, and that it might be something I wasn't ready to see. Small things started to catch my attention. A coin was missing from his pocket, the very same one I had hidden just yesterday, the one I knew he liked. A faint perfume clung to his jacket, though he had never worn anything like it before. At first, I tried to brush it off. Each detail on its own seemed harmless, but together, they painted a picture I couldn't ignore. My mind refused to settle. I had been watching him for weeks, noticing every tiny movement, memorizing every habit, storing each clue carefully in my mind. My heart raced with a strange mix of anger, disbelief, and a kind of thrill I hadn't expected. It was as if I'd been living in a game I didn't know I'd signed up for, and now, finally, the pieces were coming together. Little did he know, every step he took, every glance he threw over his shoulder, had been under my watchful eye. Every lie, every small misstep had been noted, remembered, and filed away. And soon, very soon,
the truth would come crashing down. Even now, I felt it, the moment approaching when I would finally understand. My stomach tightened with a mix of fear and anticipation. Part of me wanted to turn away, to pretend I hadn't noticed. But another part, the part that refused to be ignored, pulled me forward, whispering that I had waited long enough. The secrets he had tried so hard to hide were about to be revealed, and nothing would ever be the same again. Week after week, the same pattern kept repeating. Every Sunday, something felt wrong, like the day carried a quiet tension I couldn't explain. The street looked emptier than usual, and even the air felt heavier, as if it was holding secrets no one wanted to speak about. Today, he didn't follow his usual path. Instead, he took a different route and stopped at a corner I had never seen him go to before. The moment I saw him pause, my stomach tightened. This wasn't a harmless change. My instincts screamed that something deeper was going on, something that could break everything I thought I knew about him. Then I saw it. A small package exchanged between him and a person he had never mentioned. It was quick, almost hidden, but not quick enough to escape my eyes. When he turned away, I noticed coins in his pocket, coins that weren't his. Each tiny detail pushed my worry deeper, twisting it into a sharp fear I could no longer ignore. I watched him closely, afraid to blink and miss another clue. The truth was getting closer, step by step, and I knew that once it finally appeared, nothing in our lives would stay the same. I decided to watch him even more closely, determined not to let him sense a thing. Every small movement, every glance, every gesture mattered. My heart thumped so loudly that I was sure he could hear me if he turned at the wrong moment. A bead of cold sweat formed at my temple, but I forced myself to stay calm. My face was carefully neutral, as if nothing unusual was happening at all. The first step was blending in. I positioned myself in the small cafe near the street corner, pretending to sip my coffee while my eyes followed him. I watched as he greeted the baker with a casual smile, his tone light, almost joking. Yet even in those brief exchanges, I noticed things I hadn't before. A slight hesitation before he answered a question, a glance over his shoulder, as if checking for someone. I began to make quiet notes in my mind. Every detail, no matter how small, seemed important. The time he lingered at certain corners, the way he adjusted his coat, the pauses he took near certain buildings, even the people he spoke to mattered. How they approached him, the objects they exchanged, the subtle nods that seemed like silent signals. At first, it all seemed harmless, routine, but slowly, a pattern began to emerge, and with it, a chill ran down my spine. The more I observed, the clearer it became that he was not as predictable as I had thought. He had always taken walks like a Sunday ritual, but today's route was different. He paused at streets I had never seen him stop at before. He lingered near alleyways that usually stayed empty. And with every passing minute, my suspicion grew stronger. Something was being hidden from me, something important, something that could change everything I believed about him. I kept reminding myself to stay invisible, to act like a casual bystander. My fingers tapped nervously against my coffee cup. I noticed him hand something over to a stranger, a small, plain package, barely noticeable. He didn't even glance back to see if I saw. My stomach tightened. Coins appeared in his pocket that I hadn't seen before, and I knew for certain they didn't belong to him. Each small detail, harmless on its own, suddenly felt like a thread in a web I was unraveling, a web that held secrets I wasn't sure I wanted to discover.
My mind raced with questions. Did he know I was watching? Could he sense the weight of my eyes on him? Or was he so absorbed in his secret errands that he had no idea I was quietly following, quietly piecing everything together? Every time he turned toward me, I froze, holding my breath, afraid that even the slightest twitch might reveal my presence. But even in his glances, he showed nothing, just the usual carefree smile that had always hidden something deeper. The tension in the air was almost unbearable. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into a dark abyss, uncertain of what lay below. Each small movement he made, each secret gesture, drew me closer to the truth. But it also terrified me. One wrong step, one mistake, and the fragile balance could shatter. The fallout could be far worse than simple embarrassment or hurt feelings. Something profound was hidden in those quiet moments, and I knew that when the truth finally revealed itself, life as I knew it would change forever. I reminded myself to stay patient. Rushing would ruin everything. I had to let the patterns emerge, one by one. I started to notice even the smallest consistencies. The way he checked the street corners, how he avoided certain people, the rhythm of his footsteps when he thought no one was watching. Each discovery sent a cold shiver down my spine, but also a strange thrill. I was finally seeing what had been hidden, finally understanding the layers beneath his everyday routine. And yet there was fear. Fear that he might sense my presence, fear that he might confront me too soon, fear that the truth would hit harder than I expected. I had no choice but to continue watching, to follow him quietly, to note every tiny detail. The truth was close now. I could feel it in the tension of the street, in the subtle shifts of his expression, in the quiet spaces between his gestures. It was coming, whether he was ready or not, and I had to be ready too. The Sunday ritual that once seemed ordinary had transformed into a careful game of observation, a quiet battle of wits. I didn't know what the final revelation would bring, but I knew one thing: I could not turn away. Whatever secret he carried, whatever he had hidden in these small, unnoticed moments, it would soon be revealed. And when it was, nothing could be the same again.
Just when I thought I'd finally figured out his pattern, this Sunday proved me wrong. He didn't follow his usual route. Instead, he turned down a narrow street I hadn't seen him use before, pausing longer than usual at a corner that made my stomach tighten like a knot. My pulse quickened and a cold weight settled deep inside me, spreading a tingling tension through my hands and arms. Every nerve in my body screamed that something was off, yet I couldn't look away. I pressed myself against the shadow of a nearby building, careful not to make a sound. My breathing became shallow, my senses sharpening with every step he took. Every subtle movement caught my attention. The slight shift of his weight, the careful glance over his shoulder, the way he tugged at his coat as if to hide something. I noticed the way his hands moved, how they lingered near his pockets longer than normal, and how his eyes scanned the street in ways that seemed almost secretive. Then it happened. A small package changed hands, slipped quickly from him to a person I had never seen before. My mind raced. What was inside it? Why hadn't he said a word? The exchange was brief, almost casual, but to me, it was a crack in the carefully constructed facade I had always trusted. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine as questions swirled in my head. Who was that person? And why did he need to meet them in secret? As if that weren't enough, I noticed coins appearing in pockets I knew hadn't held anything before. Small, ordinary coins that normally would have meant nothing now felt like clues in a puzzle I was desperate to solve. Each tiny detail twisted my worry tighter, winding it around my chest so that I could barely breathe. I tried to stay calm, tried to remind myself to observe, but my mind kept jumping to the worst possibilities. I couldn't stop thinking about what he might be hiding. Had I been wrong all along, assuming his Sunday errands were harmless? Or was this finally the moment I had been dreading? The moment when I would see the truth he had worked so hard to conceal? My heart hammered with fear and anticipation as I followed him step by careful step, my eyes drinking in every small gesture, every turn, every pause. A fear I could not shake settled deep inside me. Would I even be ready when the truth finally revealed itself? Would I be able to face whatever storm was coming, crashing down suddenly and leaving no way to escape? I felt the tension tighten with every passing second, my muscles coiled like springs, my nerves burning with a mix of dread and determination. I knew I couldn't turn away. I had to see it through. No matter how painful or shocking it might be, the truth was near. I could feel it in the subtle shifts in his movements, in the hidden exchanges, in the way the street seemed to hold its breath around him. And as I followed, heart racing and mind alert, I realized that the moment I uncovered what he had been hiding, nothing would ever be the same again. Finally, the mystery unraveled. The tension that had knotted my stomach all morning slowly began to unwind, like a tightrope finally loosening. I had followed him through every turn, every quiet pause, every secretive glance, expecting, dreading some shocking revelation. And yet the truth that emerged was nothing like I had feared. He had been quietly delivering bread and small treats to the elderly widow down the street, the one with no family to care for her. I had passed her house countless times, thinking of her as a lonely figure behind drawn curtains, unaware of the little acts of kindness she received every week. The corners he had lingered at, the people he had met in passing, the seemingly strange exchanges, they had all been part of this hidden routine, a silent mission of generosity. A warm smile spread across my face, softening the tight lines of worry that had framed my features for hours. My chest felt lighter, as if the weight of suspicion had been lifted. All the tiny observations I had made, all the details I had scrutinized, suddenly came together into a perfect picture. Each coin, each pause, each shadowed corner had played a role in a story that was far kinder than I had imagined. I took a deep breath, feeling the crisp air of the morning fill my lungs. The sounds of the street, the distant hum of a lawnmower, the chirping of birds, the faint murmur of passing cars suddenly felt different, almost comforting. What had once seemed heavy with secrets now felt bright with possibility. I realized that my careful watching, my patience, and attention to detail had led me to this moment. I had uncovered the truth, quietly triumphant, without confronting him, without accusations or conflict. He had been clever, of course. I had thought I was the one uncovering a hidden secret, and in a way I was. But he had been clever too, finding small, subtle ways to deliver kindness without drawing attention. He had orchestrated this quiet routine with thoughtfulness and care, ensuring that each small action remained unnoticed by the casual observer. And yet he hadn't anticipated me. My curiosity, my careful attention had led me to see what no one else had. As I watched him walk away, the little package in his hand now empty, I felt a gentle thrill of discovery ripple through me. There was something quietly satisfying in knowing that I had understood him, that I had pieced together the story behind his actions. And yet, A part of me couldn't help but wonder, what little secret would I uncover next? I felt a soft joy, a sense of connection, not just to him, but to the world around me. The world was full of small mysteries, quiet acts of care that often went unnoticed, hidden in plain sight. And as I let my gaze follow him down the street, I realized that part of the thrill was in watching, in noticing, in quietly piecing together the puzzle. Each Sunday held a new story, a new revelation, and I was ready for the next one, eager to see what ordinary moments might hide extraordinary truths. For the first time all day, I felt at peace. The tension that had gripped me loosened completely, replaced by warmth and gentle satisfaction. My curiosity had served me well, and I had discovered that not every secret was dangerous. Some were simply small, beautiful acts of kindness waiting to be noticed. And in that moment, I promised myself to keep watching, to keep noticing, because the world, I realized, was full of quiet wonders waiting just around the corner. After the truth came to light, he turned and looked at me, and I saw it immediately. Surprise, flickering across his face, quickly followed by a faint trace of admiration. My chest tightened with a strange warmth, a soft thrill of triumph that I couldn't hide, no matter how much I tried. All those weeks of careful observation, of quietly noting every detail, had led me to this moment. Every pause, every glance, every small hidden clue I had stored in my mind now felt like a victory, not over him, not against him, but over my own impatience, my own curiosity, and my uncertainty. I realized, in that quiet, lingering moment, that cleverness and kindness could coexist. The cleverness I had applied in watching, tracking, and noticing every detail had allowed me to uncover the truth, and the kindness he had shown in secretly delivering bread and treats to someone who had no one else to care for her, well, that kindness had been hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone patient enough to notice. It was a quiet, unassuming kind of power, and yet its impact was profound. A soft smile spread across my face, and I felt a gentle lightness settling into my chest. All those moments of tension, all the racing thoughts, all the anxiety that had wound itself around my stomach now seemed almost like a memory of a storm that had passed. In its place, there was clarity, and with clarity came understanding. I had discovered that patience, in its quiet, deliberate way, could be as powerful as any bold action. By simply watching, by quietly waiting, by paying attention to the smallest details, I had arrived at the truth without confrontation, without accusation, without fear of failure. He didn't say anything at first, just held my gaze, a silent acknowledgement passing between us. I could almost feel him realizing that I had known, that I had pieced together the story from the shadows. There was no anger, no resentment, only a soft, mutual recognition of skill and awareness. It was almost as if we had both been playing a quiet game, each testing the other, each observing in our own way. And in that unspoken understanding, I felt an unusual pride, not just in myself, but in the lesson the moment carried. Patience could reveal more than force, and subtlety could uncover more than confrontation. Sometimes, I thought, the smallest acts uncover the deepest truths. In the quiet of the morning, in the simple act of noticing, in the deliberate effort to observe and understand, there is a power that is often overlooked. I had discovered not just his secret, but a truth about myself, that patience could be the cleverest form of action, that attention and quiet observation could reveal things that boldness alone never could. As I watched him walk away, the sun glinting softly off his coat, I realized that the world was full of small mysteries, small kindnesses, small moments waiting to be noticed, and that sometimes the greatest triumph came not from dramatic gestures, but from simply paying attention, from quietly understanding, from waiting for the right moment to see the truth in all its clarity. In that moment, I felt a deep satisfaction, a quiet joy, and a gentle excitement for the next secret, the next story, waiting just around the corner. Even after the mystery was solved, a gentle anticipation lingered in the house, wrapping itself around me like a soft, comforting blanket. The quiet hum of the neighborhood filtered through the open window, mixing with the faint rustle of leaves in the trees outside. I held my cup in both hands, letting the warmth seep slowly into my palms, and watched as steam curled upward, carrying the delicate, soothing scent of chamomile. The aroma was calming, yet beneath it, a small thrill of curiosity stirred deep within me, a quiet reminder that life rarely stayed still for long. I couldn't help but wonder what surprises the next Sunday might bring. Would he follow the same route as before, or would he find some new, unexpected path to wander down? What small, hidden gestures were waiting to be discovered, tucked away in plain sight like tiny treasures for those who paid attention? My mind drifted lazily through possibilities, imagining little acts of kindness, secret routines, or tiny adventures that went unnoticed by everyone else. The thought of these small hidden stories made my chest lift in an almost exhilarating way, a gentle excitement that had nothing to do with fear or anxiety, but everything to do with curiosity. Even the house seemed alive with quiet energy. Sunlight fell across the wooden floorboards, highlighting faint scratches and dents that spoke of years of ordinary life, of Sunday mornings, of hurried breakfasts, of quiet afternoons spent reading or watching the clouds drift by. These were the moments that held the magic, I realized. The ordinary, the overlooked, the subtle little details that told their own stories if you just paused long enough to notice them. Life had a way of hiding the unexpected in the most ordinary moments, and sometimes the smallest gestures carried the weight of the most profound truth. I sipped my tea, letting the warmth settle into my chest, and felt a soft, contented smile spread across my face. My eyes drifted to the window again, to the street beyond, imagining him walking down it, quietly performing his small acts of care and kindness. Perhaps there were more neighbors like the elderly widow, quietly receiving his attention, his thoughtfulness, his small gestures that went unnoticed by the world but mattered so much to those who truly needed them. Perhaps there were even more mysteries waiting for me, little secrets tucked away in corners and gestures, in tiny interactions that seemed insignificant at first glance. The world, I realized, was full of stories, layers upon layers of them, some waiting to be discovered, some quietly hidden, and some simply meant to be felt without words at all. And as I lifted my cup again, letting the chamomile steam brush against my face, I understood something important. The joy wasn't just in discovering the truth, but in knowing that there would always be more to notice, more to see, more to understand. Life was alive with secrets and surprises, and the simple act of watching, of observing, of caring enough to pay attention was in itself a kind of adventure. I took another slow sip of tea, feeling the calm warmth fill me, and knew with certainty that the story would continue. There were always more Sundays, always more quiet moments of discovery, always more small miracles waiting to be uncovered. And as I set the cup down and let my gaze drift toward the street, a soft thrill ran through me again, the same one that had always nudged me to look a little closer, to notice a little more, to wonder a little further. There were always more stories waiting to unfold, just around the corner, if you knew where to look.